Welcome to the Project Endure podcast, the place where we talk about life, endurance, persistence, perspective, and so much more. I'm Joe Rinaldi, and I'll be your host. Let's jump in. Before we get started, let me just say that we get it. Personal development can be hard, but you don't have to do it alone. Project Endure has been on a mission to create a supportive and inspiring community of people, all striving to be better together. Head down to the link in the show notes and join the Hard Things Club so that we can do hard things together. And if you're already a member, invite a friend and spread the love. Now, let's get to the episode. Welcome back to the Project Endure podcast, episode 62. We have myself, Joe Rinaldi, and we have a very special guest in New York City, Andrew Shelley. Andrew, what's going on?
What's up, Joe? How we doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I've been looking forward to this for a while. I'm glad we're finally getting to have this conversation. And it's going to be a good one. We were just talking before we started recording about some of the work that you do for 10,000, and you were just connecting with Sam Tooley, who the podcast guests are familiar with from episode 2, a close friend of mine. And I would love to hear more about your work, honestly, man, but we can start wherever. Why don't you just tell everybody who is Andrew Shelley, whatever that means to you?
So I'm Andrew Shelley. I am how old am I? I'm 26 years old. I had to think for a sec. I grew up in Long Island, on the North Shore, and pretty normal kid. Played sports growing up. Nothing crazy. I went down to College of Charleston in South Carolina. And I was down there, did my 4 years, stayed about another 2 years, because just loved it down there. And then recently moving back to Manhattan, to now work with 10,000. I think in about like 2 weeks, it'll be coming up on like a full year. So good to be back in New York City. I honestly didn't think I'd come back. New York City kind of had a salty taste in my mouth when I was growing up. Just didn't think it was for me, but I'm loving it so far. The work I do for 10,000, so I'm the video editor. But we kind of have, juggle a lot of plates in there. So I do a fair bit of shooting, but pretty much just oversee all the video coming in and chopping it up and making cool stuff. I get to work with amazing people, like you said, Sam. I know you had Dan Churchill,
Adam Clank.
Yeah, no, I can't believe you got all these stars on the podcast. I feel so imposter syndrome right now, but these guys are awesome. It's honestly so grateful to be able to like work with them and do these awesome projects. So
yeah, I mean, you're supposed to be here, man. This is meant to be. And you know Dan, episode 43, Adam, episode 10, Sam, episode 2, and people are gonna know Andrew Shelley, episode 62 here. So what got you into the video space to begin with? Was that what you studied in school?
No, so I actually went to school for marketing. I think probably about like halfway through maybe my sophomore year. Probably sophomore year. I think my mom bought me a camera, like a proper like DSLR rather than just phone. I always kind of, like taking pictures and whatnot. But yeah, I just would, and then it started kind of just opening up Pandora's box and started off with just photos, and then towards the end of college, I would just pick up, kind of like these freelance gigs and side projects, and then towards I would say last probably senior year, junior year, I was like, oh, I can, make this a business. Started doing a lot of wedding photography. Charleston's very big in the wedding space. So that was um, a good source of income. And then after college, I was looking at marketing jobs, and everything was kind of just falling flat. Like I was like, do I really want to do this? It was a lot of uh, online marketing, and it just wasn't really calling my name. I think I took one job, had it for about 2 months, and I was just like, screw this. But really started getting into the video space probably like after college. It was just, I think I was better at it. I enjoyed it more. There's that saying, a photo, what is it? A photo is, you can, stumbling right now. It's a photo tells 1,000 words. I always think it's like a cop out. I'm like, well, then that means like video tell 1,000,000 words. And I love playing with video. And I just think now video is huge. So it kind of evolved. I picked up, I would do gyms, and I think that was really where I got like into the fitness space, was, making videos for these gyms, and just my own personal interest in athletics and whatnot. Um, but yeah, and then starting with 10,000 is just, it's honestly been a whirlwind. Like from the first time I started to now, is like, I think I've probably learned more in this 1 year than like exponentially. I probably learned more in the first month than anything prior to that. And it's just kind of keeping the wheels churning. And a lot of people will be like, oh, you're self-taught. I think that's also another very cop-out thing to say. It's like, all right, I didn't go to school, but I didn't, go to a university for video editing, but by no means I'm self-taught. Like, I have so many mentors. And another person on the podcast, huge fan of Danny Gerbert's, like, I watch all his videos. And so there's so many people that have taught me, tips and tricks over
Mhm.
the years. And it's just kind of like absorbing it all, being a sponge. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell, for sure.
Yeah, Danny, episode 35. He's a guy who didn't go to school for what he does now, and he's incredible at what he does now. And it's really inspiring to watch that journey. And I think, just to your point, self-taught or not self-taught, did you go to school for it? Did you not go to school for it? I really don't think much of that matters. And I was talking to somebody the other day with a marketing degree, and I said to them, we were consulting on some work for Project Endure. And I said, listen, I know nothing about marketing. I know very little about business except for what I've read in books and experimented with myself. And he said, hey, man, as soon as I graduated school, everything I learned pretty much went out the window. And, it's the truth. Life changes, things change. We learn new information, we have new experiences, and how we integrate that, how we seek out mentorship, how we reflect on experiences, and how we choose to grow. That's what matters. And clearly your time at 10,000 so far has taught you a lot. What brought you to 10,000 specifically, as opposed to maybe other opportunities?
Hmm. So it's funny how it happened. I think, and we could probably get into it. I think it was the second, probably like 2.5 years after college. I was still in Charleston, and it was definitely a bit of a rough patch for myself. And I was kind of, I was doing freelance work, just not really feeling fulfilled. And um, so I was looking really for to work for a company. I never, like, in the creative space, I had like, I wouldn't say I really had mentors. I just had like people that I would learn from and picked, but no one I could really learn from. I was only learning from like myself and mistakes, which is great, but I was really seeking like kind of like a higher creative to 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 learn from. And also to pair with that is to work for a brand or someone. It ended up being a brand, but to just have a body of work where you can kind of just tunnel vision,
Mhm.
rather than like doing a wedding and then doing a gym and then it's kind of just one, you don't know where the money's coming from. Two, it's tough to find your, I would say, voice, or just, I really just wanted to kind of like pound the rock essentially.
Mhm.
Um, so I was looking for jobs and was going to leave Charleston, and my friend who works for 10,000 now, we went to high school together. Shout out Jack. Just had a LinkedIn share, and I think it was for video editor, and I was like, I knew of 10,000. I followed them. I just kind of on Instagram, so I knew who they were, and I was like, yo, do you think this would be a good fit? And he immediately was like, I think this would be a great fit. Jumped on a call, and I think I had one interview, and I was like, I need this job. Like,
Mm.
in my mind, I was like, there's no way anyone else is getting this job. And the interview went great, but I was like, I need to do more. So I pretty much just grabbed one of my friends who's massive, and shot like kind of a spec ad for them, and was just like, here, blah, 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 sent it to them. And they were like, oh, all right, this is above and beyond. And I think I got like the offer in the next like week or so, and sent it up to New York. And then
Wow.
here, so
Yeah, it's cool how it happened, and I'm sure we'll get more into it, but figured I might as well just ask the first big question of this conversation. And that is, what's the hardest thing that you've ever had to handle? So a circumstance that you didn't get to choose for yourself, but you had to navigate.
yeah. So as I previously saying, kind of the rough patch during that, I guess it was probably almost 2 years ago. It was March of 20 March of 2020.
Yeah.
And I was in Charleston. Actually, no, I was in North Carolina on a climbing trip, rock climbing trip with some buddies. And I sorry, I don't really like to talk about this much. Woke up in the morning. My mom uh, blasted me with a bunch of texts, and I was like, "Oh, this is strange." She's just like, "Call me." So I called her, and she just like relayed, and she pretty much was like, "Your brother passed away." And uh, yeah, it was tough. It was like kind of the world stopped spinning for a bit. This is my older brother. It was my only brother. His name is Ben Goodman. I say his name because I just helps me keep his name alive. But it was obviously the last thing I expected to hear, and just over the next couple months, it was just kind of like picking up the pieces. But yeah, it still is tough. I'm working on it like every day, but that was by far like I never, and I'm grateful. Prior, I've never had to deal with death ever. I think I had maybe like a second cousin. Like, I was very grateful growing up that I never had to deal with it, and I almost like knew it to a fault because I had friends and lose fathers and stuff like that. And so when it happened, you just kind of, I don't know, you don't think it'll ever happen to you, because why would you ever think that? But yeah, it really um, opened up a bunch of different perspectives. I was, I still am like an always happy-go-lucky kid, but I never had to deal with like mental health. It just never really was like on my radar. And then now for sure, it's like a constant battle. So it's funny, and it's strange, and it's difficult how that stuff like pops up, and yeah, so
What are the battles? If you don't mind me asking, what do the battles look like today, 2 years out for you?
um I think the battles are definitely they're the same. Of I think it's just weird. Like you never know, and it's weird. It's weird how like anxiety or mental health can kind of just pop up at like uh whenever it really wants to. So it obviously the battles it's losing a brother. Like that dude was by far my biggest fan, and like he literally told me all the time like keep pursuing what you're doing, like when certain, like when some family members weren't or were just like you should you ever think about getting like a real job? And like he was just always there and was like, you're doing exactly what you need to be doing right now, nothing else. He's like, you're gonna figure it out. And I don't know, I loved him for that. So I think it's losing a friend, it's losing someone that uh you know you relied on for so many aspects. So then you kind of have to now rely on other people to help you. It's not like um you're not in the fight alone, you're not in the battle alone. Uh I still do have amazing friends and family that are always there for me. Uh but yeah, uh it's tough. I wish I could say that the months prior, like it motivated me, but like it was dark. It was honestly like a pretty dark and grim couple of months, but um doing a lot better now. I think back to what I said is it was diving into work, you know, and but also knowing like don't use that as a distraction. Like whether it's, don't like push down feelings or like emotions, definitely making those aware. But it is also like getting a routine in has helped me tremendously. But then it's also this stuff, dude. It's speaking about it. It's weird just how talking about it and bringing it to light can kind of be therapeutic in a way. So yeah, it's a
Yeah,
long-winded answer, but
I appreciate you sharing. I can cut this part out if you don't want to share. How did you lose Ben? And again, if you don't want to share, you don't have to.
um, no, you're good. So he essentially in the um when he's sleeping, he had cardiac failure, so kind of like a heart attack in the middle of the night. He had kind of a faulty heart. He had heart surgery, I think, 2 or 3 years prior to his passing, and um, we thought it went well. But yeah, and it was so he had a fever that kind of like triggered um, his heart to just kind of overwork, and eventually, yeah, um, it was yeah. There's a whole like myriad of um, kind of conclusions, but yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So it was very shocking, as you can probably assume, but yeah.
If you could go back and I know this is a tough question, but if you could go back and know that maybe you would have a month left with Ben, is there anything you would have done differently or said or shared with him?
Yeah. Um, so it was especially tough because uh the last time I actually saw saw him because I was in Charleston. He was living in Manhattan. It was honestly like the best day of his life and probably one of the best days of mine. Um, I flew up. He flew me up to take pictures of him proposing to his fiance, and it was on a rooftop balcony in Manhattan where they lived, and I was like on the other the building scaling, not scaling, just on the fire escape. um, dude, I mean, it was just the best day. So kind of tangent, but like he was supposed to, the week later, after the week after it happened, so he passed, he was supposed to come to Charleston. We had like a 5 day golf trip. So it's just like rubbing salt in the wound because I didn't think I saw him for, I don't know, about like 6 months. To answer your question, if I would do anything differently, I mean, I don't know. I don't, our relationship, so he's 8 years older than me, and our relationship was really like in high school. When he was in high school, I was a kid, so we didn't really bond that much, or like it'd be big brother. But like over the last like 5 years, we really became close because I think we just, as you age. So I definitely want to, like, we had a great relationship. I think just being with him, man, like uh I miss him so much. Like I'll find um so much inspiration from him and like everything I do. And I think one of the biggest like takeaways was how much I learned from him after he passed.
Mm.
And I'm still learning, like, because you just don't really think of it like just how to be like a man. Like he was a provider, and like uh he was so solid. He's such a foundation for myself, for my mom. We have a small family. Like we have different dads, but it was just me and my mom and him, and he was like the glue. you know so it was really just it's those principles. And I think, I don't want to say I took it for granted, but I think it's just you're not really aware because obviously I was so thankful for him, but like all that he did, setting up, just he's going back to school to get like his master's and whatnot. Like, but yeah, it's really just learning from him and like what it is to be a man, like just a provider and just a foundation. So to answer your question, I don't know if I would do anything differently. I think I would just cherish every second I had, you know, um, for sure.
Uh, um, Podcast is just audio at this point, but I'm crying over here. And yeah, man, I don't know why. I know why, I guess, but I just think it's really cool that people like yourself are willing to share these things with me, with anybody listening, and it just like it softens my heart because it's easy to go throughout the day and get frustrated at things or be upset with people or circumstances. And then you sit down at 6 o'clock in the evening and have a conversation like this, and you realize that like none of it really matters. And all the people you're interacting with are carrying things that, you know nothing about. And it's really powerful. And I appreciate you talking about it. And, it sounds like Ben has left this world a better place and he's left you a better man. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more, Joe.
With that being said, I mean, that's something you didn't choose, but I know you've done hard things on purpose. And the next question is a simple one, but what's the hardest thing you've ever done on purpose? Something that you've chosen, and why have you done that thing?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I've heard this question you answer, and I guess I was trying to think. Probably like physically. Um, I did a 50K. When was it? Uh, I think last February. Yeah. Um, in Long Island. So did the first ultra. Um, yeah, I mean it was that was that was definitely tough. Probably the toughest physical thing I've done. I think obviously I didn't choose to have my brother pass, but if I'm being truthful, I feel like uh dealing with mental health and like anxiety and just like battles of depression, like getting help in the first place was way more. Admitting that it was actually happening was probably the toughest thing that I've ever had to do. It sounds like it is easy, but I don't know. If I compare the two, I'll take running a 50K um, over. But to your point, the reason why, I mean, I like running. I've always kind of in high school I ran. I didn't really enjoy it as much because it was just for races and whatnot. I'm not like a huge time person. Like I've never ran a marathon. I've ran the distance, but like I don't know, marathons just never really intrigued me. I kind of just went try. I like the ultra space. I don't know. There's no one really there to like worry about a time. It's usually just about you. And it's like usually you just want to finish most of the time, at least what I did. So it's kind of just seeing where my mind can go, seeing where my body can go. And in a way, it is therapeutic. I think almost to a fault. Like when I first started doing it, I like hit the ground running and I was almost running away from some things. So that was definitely, a battle in itself. But like now, um, much more stable. Hopefully, we have some races in the future. But yeah, the 50K was definitely tough. It was also a loop. It was a
Mhm.
3 mile loop, so
Cool.
it got really loopy. But yeah.
Yeah, a couple episodes back, episode 58 with Kellen Matthews, we talk about um, his his journey to ultra running, and he's a recovering heroin addict, and
Hmm.
he talks about the pain of ultra running and the pain of going through withdrawal and getting clean and getting help. And he says something similar where he would take the pain of running any day of the week. And I'd love to focus in on that season of life where you decided to get help. What was it that pushed you over the edge to get help? And what did it actually look like? Who did you reach out to? What was that process like?
I don't know if there was like maybe I don't know if I could pinpoint like a tipping point. I was not doing the right things. I was still down in Charleston. I think I was just looking for outlets and drinking too much and just kind of spiraling. And I definitely lost some friends on the way, and which is like pains me to say because these are the same friends that literally have like been there supporting me through it all. So I think it was just like, one day looking in the mirror and was like, hey, I need to kind of button it up and ask. And it was truthfully, it was telling my mother. And then is ultimately like finding like a therapist and whatnot. But um I think it's tough because I still do have such a great support group, and like friends are amazing. Um and so is family, but it's almost finding like someone that's detached from the situation,
Mhm.
um and almost like doesn't know you, in a sense. It sounds weird to say, but I think it was, I know my friends are and family are always going to support me, but it was kind of like getting this outside help that is like, hey, there's a reason why this is happening, and like you're not insane for kind of going insane, if that makes sense. So it's almost like a reassurance, and then it's just like a big part of what I always believe is like I'm a big like actionable step. I'm very practical, and I hate when people are like just I hate's a strong word. I shouldn't say that, but like kind of just give you advice that's like doesn't really get you anywhere. It's almost like just okay. So I'm very like a actionable step person. So it was kind of finding someone to give me those and take it step by step, take it small and keep going. And yeah.
Do you still have that kind of support in the therapy space today?
Yeah. I talk to my therapist probably definitely like once a week, and then I'll go and see him when I can. He's out in Long Island, so it is a little trickier, but like yeah. And it's gotten a lot better, like manageable. So um yeah. It like before it was probably like yeah, I go see him quite a bit. But now it's yeah, it's manageable, but it's also making sure that stick with it, because it's not going away. Like this isn't going away, it back to the running thing is why I enjoyed running was it's this idea that you can stop whenever, it sucks. It's so painful. Like that 50K, I was like, wow, I wanted to, I think the 25-mile mark. I was like, this is brutal, cramping up. It's the idea that you can stop, but you don't, it's like, oh, I can just stop this pain whenever I want. And it's like battling that with the pain that you can't stop. And I'm talking about, the everyday struggles of, mental health. Like that's forever. And you can again do those actionable steps and get help to lessen it. But it's baggage. It's gonna be with you forever. And I do think running in a way has helped me. It's like preparing, it's doing these hard things on purpose, because it'll almost make you ready for, I mean, you won't be ready, but you'll be in a better place when life doesn't, serve you up some good uh fortune or what and whatnot, and that could be from so many different levels. It's really all perspective. Everyone has, it just like running a race. Some people like running a mile could be a lot for someone, and then you could be a 100-mile endurance runner. So it the same thing goes for what someone's going through. It literally is all perspective, and you can't be like, oh, I'm what I want to say is like, don't feel bad if other people are in worse. Like it doesn't mean that your struggles like aren't important, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. So
Yeah, don't let comparison invalidate how you feel,
mhm.
because heart is relative. And one of the reasons I started Project Endura and I started this podcast is because I see so much value in doing hard things, in pushing yourself, whether that's physically, whether that's mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever that looks like for any person. Because just like going to the gym can make you stronger, we have to embrace resistance if we want to become resilient. We have to go through struggle in order to find strength. And on the flip side, those choices, when they're voluntary, that's one thing. But life is hard and life is not fair. And we all go through those hard things that we didn't choose. But like you said, with the right perspective, we can choose to grow through those things. We can choose to find strength. We can find the opportunities in adversity and come out the other side just a little bit better. And what you said, Andrew, really resonated with me just about fighting those everyday battles. And there's a quote I've shared on the podcast a while back that I want to bring up one more time. It's by Veronica Roth. And she said, there are so many ways to be brave in this world. Sometimes bravery involves laying down your life for something bigger than yourself or for someone else. Sometimes it involves giving up everything you've ever known or everyone you've ever loved for the sake of something greater. But sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it is nothing more than gritting your teeth through the pain and the work of every day, the slow walk toward a better life. That is the sort of bravery I must have now. And I feel like there are people out there who wake up, things are great for the first 10 minutes, and then boom, an anxiety attack. Boom, I feel down out of nowhere, right? Life is hard. And it's in those moments where it's easy to minimize, right? Like, oh, this feeling came out of nowhere. I have no reason to feel this way. Other people are going through things that are much harder. And you get into the cycle of minimizing what you're going through. But that is brave, right? When you don't want to get out of bed, when you wake up and the world feels like it's caving in on you, when you have those moments where you just want to curl up into a ball and cry, but you choose to take another step and to keep going and to get to the end of the day and to do your best and show up, that's brave. And I'm curious for you, Andrew, when you talk about the anxiety attacks and things like that, I think there are people out there who maybe have experienced that but haven't put words to it. Could you describe, I know it might be hard, but can you describe what that actually feels like when that comes on any given day?
Yeah, and I mean, I can describe like what happens. I'm not a with the anxiety attack. I don't know if it's like uh, per se an attack. At least for me, I know people that have like for sure. Like it's like, oh shit, um, shit at the wall. For me, it's like you said. It is. It's random. It comes on. Sometimes it can come on like too much stress. Sometimes like there I guess there's different triggers, and it's tricky to like pinpoint it, and it's almost weird because it's like you said, you can kind of get in this like spiral of like I feel bad, uh but I don't know why, and then you almost feel worse for like not knowing why. Or um a, a big part of sometimes when I feel is like if I'm not doing something, like, or if I'm almost just being lazy or not doing um not working out, or not doing my job properly, or just responsibilities. But at the same time, it is being self-aware. I know, like, I work out all the time and I do my job pretty well, so it's like it's being self-aware. It's giving yourself some leeway, and like don't be as hard on yourself. I know, me personally, people tell me that, tell I've been told that, and that's one of the things like I hate to hear, because it's like, what do I do with that? But it is true. And then now I'm telling other people. I think like an actionable step, like if I ever were to feel it, is take a couple deep breaths, figure out where you are. It's kind of weird, but like you literally almost say out loud where you are, or in your head, if you don't want to look like a freak and you're around other people. Um, but yeah, and it's just like a couple deep breaths, and I don't know, that usually is let it like it subsides. It is different. Uh, for me, I know like why it's happening. For other people, sometimes they don't. Um, and I know like the catalyst that it happened. Sometimes there is no catalyst. Like sometimes there is no one like one event that has brought you this. Some people just can have these struggles all the time. So in a way, that there's just so many different like challenges that comes with it. But yeah, being present, take a couple deep breaths, almost take a step back from whatever you're doing, and kind of just evaluate it. But
Like that. And I've gone through seasons of life where I've felt very anxious and down. And you're right. It could be your mom, it could be a friend, it can be someone who's really close to you, and they can tell you all of those things that we know to be true in our minds. And it just doesn't help. It just doesn't penetrate the place that it needs to. And I was having a conversation with a client of mine the other week, and we were having a conversation about, if somebody is going through something hard, what kind of questions can you ask them? How can you support them? And my client said, well, what if you ask somebody, what don't you need from me right now? And I
mhm,
thought that was a really interesting question, because I think a lot of times when people see someone in distress, they feel like they need help. They feel like they need to do something for that person. And sometimes that person might need space. Sometimes that person might just need your presence. Sometimes that person might just need you to ask them, what do you need from me? What don't you need from me? I'm here for you. And I think those things are all powerful. But just to go back to what you said, it's different for everybody, and I think talking is very therapeutic, like you said earlier in the podcast, and just being there for others. And so, to shift gears a little bit, Andrew, this is the Project Endure podcast. We like to talk about endurance. I have two projects of yours in mind, actually, that I want to ask you a little bit about before I ask you what your definition of endurance is. So you were with Adam Klink recently when he did the Leadville 100, and you did some work there. And then I believe you were involved with the Robbie Bellinger Outlast a Tesla project as well. Could you tell us just briefly about both of those projects and what they've meant to you, and maybe any takeaways? And then I want to hear what the word endurance means to you.
100%. So I'll start with Adams. It was honestly funny. We had a shoot for 10,000 in Denver, and during the middle of the week, and then I was like, oh, so I had to fly out there, and I just decided I knew Leadville was that weekend, so I originally like had no, I never met Adam. I knew who he was, but and I was like, I'm just gonna go by myself. Like I knew some people running it, and I was just like, I loved the environment. The ultra that I went to, and I was like, I have watched so many Leadville films, and I was like, I need to go see this place. So I honestly just showed up. Dan Churchill is part of the 10,000 team. He was pacing Adam, and so I showed up. I was like trying to meet up with them, and then pre-race, or the gun goes off. Dan is like, "Do you just want to come with us?" Because like honestly, that saved me, because I would have been so screwed. Like you can't really just show up by yourself, because you have to drive to every checkpoint. So I would have been, driving a rental car. Like it would have just been a nightmare. So that's when kind of I just hopped in one of their cars, and they were with all the BPN guys, that Adam is a part of. And it was funny. I met Adam the day before, and then yeah, he has no idea that I wasn't really even crewing. Like obviously I would have done anything he needed, but like mid race, I'm just there, and he's like 30 miles in, so he's like wide eyed, and then like he gives me a look, and he's probably like, what the heck is he doing here? But like it was so much fun. I pretty much just like had my camera, and like was there was no like real project. I just kind of shot some stuff and then chopped it up later. But that was so much fun. That lit like a fire under my ass. Leadville is it's like it's different up there. I'm from Long Island and lived in Charleston. They're flat as paper. So like seeing mountains just kind of always gets me going. And just seeing like, I mean, Adam went through absolute hell. He unfortunately DNF'd like I think at mile 88, and it was wild. But that man is a beast, and I'm sure he's probably going to be back next year. I don't know if he is confirmed or not, but I'm sure he's going to tackle it again and then do it. And then um, to your other question was the Tesla project. So Robbie Ballinger, another 10,000 athlete, he's an ultra endurance runner. We have these things called feats of strength at 10,000. And in a nutshell, they're just like these challenges that our athletes, that our captains, our athletes, we like to put them through. So we've done about like 6 or 7 in the last year or so, but the Tesla one was pretty much charging up a full Tesla. They were in Austin, Texas, and FYI, I was not present for this. I was still back at the HQ. Had to make sure all the videos were getting edited, but filling up the battery, seeing how far it would go, and then Robbie has 72 hours to run that distance. So it ended up going 242 miles, which is like inconceivable. I don't even know where to begin with that. And yeah, we had a production crew. We had some coworkers down there, and again, he ultimately, I guess, didn't finish the challenge. He did it in 76 hours, but still ran further than the Tesla. So I still chalk that up as a dub in my book because that's ridiculous. But with that project, I edited some. I did not edit the full feature. That was the production company that we hired, a guy named Everett, and other crews. Kind of like took care of some of the trailers and whatnot. But yeah, that was awesome. I learned so much from editing that and from like a huge full like feature. And I mean like to me that's like my end goal. Like I want to be able to shoot and edit like these ridiculous feats, and hopefully we'll get there one day. We have a feat of strength coming November 3rd. We're doing 24 hours on a treadmill, and one of our 10,000 athlete, Don, his last name is now escaping me, Don Reicheld or something, or I forget, but yeah, he's going to do 24 hours on a
Wow.
treadmill. There's a couple of like records he's trying to break. But that'll be in Manhattan. So I'll get to shoot that and then chop it up. So I'm excited for that one.
That's awesome. And so you're obviously around endurance quite a bit. And
Mm-hmm.
you have your own experience with endurance, both in the physical world and otherwise. When you hear the word endurance, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. I think um endurance for me, I think I wrote it down, but like I don't even really like the answer that I put now that you've asked me. I think it goes back to, the previous questions that you asked me is what is the hardest thing you've had to do that you have been giving and not decided, and then the opposite. And it's almost like endurance has these two properties, or sometimes endurance can find you, and then
Mhm.
other times you find endurance. And what I mean by that is like sometimes life does not go your way, and choosing to do hard things, choosing to kind of embrace these mundane tasks, whether it's through physical exercise, whether it's just doing these daily things, um, on purpose, it kind of, for me, it's that battle of being consistent with that, because it will almost like counteract the other thing. So endurance for me is making sure in the totem pole that you're mixing it up, and you kind of, that way you'll be prepared. You'll never be fully prepared, but like if life doesn't go your way, at least you'll be built slightly different to handle it. So
I love that. Yeah, built different is a phrase that I love. And I don't know who coined that. I don't know where I know that from, but I've seen it on shirts and I've heard it quite a bit. But yeah, just embracing the variety of challenge in life, the challenge we choose, the challenge that chooses us, and just allowing all of that to better prepare us for whatever's next. That was well said. Um, so last question, Andrew. And this one, you're speaking directly to the people listening, rather to the person listening, unless you're listening in a group to this podcast, in which case, thank you guys for listening. Um, what advice would you have for somebody who's going through a hard season of life, whether they chose it or it chose them? Maybe they're just feeling down. Maybe they're feeling overwhelmed. Maybe they're just not sure where to go or what to do. What would you
mhm.
say to them?
Yeah. Um, I think for me, again, going back to practical advice and actionable steps is, um, taking. So what people like to would tell me was be like, oh, time heals all, and like it will get better, which is completely true, and I couldn't agree more. So, but that's you can't really do anything with that. So it is finding almost things that you enjoy that in a way can not distract, but keep you moving forward and keep you just keep you moving. Like if it, and it doesn't have to be physical exercise. Like for me, I love editing videos. I love storytelling. It's literally the only thing I want to do, and it's probably the only thing I will continue to do, is tell people stories. And that has helped me tremendously. So it is finding things that you enjoy, but it is also, just looking at it as at a granular level, taking it day by day. And yeah, get a routine. I've always been a huge routine person. Um, it just allows that, it allows for that mental health ghost, that like anxiety attack that is waiting around the corner to not really be available if you're moving and keeping it going, whatever that is. So for you or the person listening out there, it is finding that. And if you don't know what that is, go and do whatever, go do random things, go do things that you're going to be uncomfortable doing, because you might find something that you love to do. So
Mm. Reminds me of a Dale Carnegie quote where he says, "Inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, don't sit home and think about it. Go out and get busy." And right, spot on, man. You're right. Like you don't need to know what to do necessarily, but you got to do something. And I think movement is very important. And I just appreciate you sharing that. And I can't tell you how much I value this conversation, and I'm really looking forward to our friendship growing from here on out. And if people want to connect with you, if they want to see your work, if they want to know more about you and your story, where should they go to do that?
so pretty simple. Probably Instagram's the best. I'm just at Andrew Shelley _ EY at the end. I don't post that much, so if you really want to see my work, go follow 10,000. That's just 10,000.cc on Instagram. Go check out what we're doing. We're always banging out awesome content, and yeah, and thank you, Joe. This was awesome. We got to get you over to the 10,000 HQ and got to get to Manhattan and whatnot. And we gotta hang out. So
I'd love that, man. Well, until then, keep up all your great work, and thank you again for this.
I appreciate it, man.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Project Indoor podcast, go ahead and subscribe, leave a review on your platform of choice, and share this episode with a friend. It helps us get more conversations like this out to more people like you. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next time. And one more thing. If you're looking for a community of people all striving to be better together, check out the Project Indoor Hard Things Club. The link is in the description below. We'd love to have you.